You wake to the clanging of glass against the side table nearest to the bed. You stretch your body and enjoy the feeling of the freshly cleaned sheets against your skin. You're still in the gown you had out on the night before, and you hoped that the meant nothing had troublesome happened. You open your eyes and watch a beautiful woman with bright red hair pouring water into a crystal glass. You're thankful it's not Anya, but you don't expect this girl to be any less nasty.
Water, miss?
She offers you the glass and you take it, realizing you had a pulsing headache. You really went heavy with your wine drinking. She sits with you on the bed, keeping her back straight and watching you finish your glass. She takes it back and says,
The prince told me to speak softly to you since you had a rough night, but I do want to inform you that breakfast is being served now. Food from your kingdom to make you feel more at home. I must admit, I did sneak a few bites of the potato hash, and it really is quite delightful.
She sends you a soft smile. Maybe not everyone from this kingdom was horrible.
If you want, I can help you find the dining hall after dressing you, if you don't mind.
You gaze down to the red silken gown you wore to bed. For something that was supposed to be worn to please its viewer, it was incredibly comfortable. You smile at the thought of what the people in the temple might think if you went down dressed as you were. Maybe they'd send you home. This is your home now, you have to tell yourself. You nod and allow the woman to escort you out of the bed, back to your old home. Mina, your chambermaid and friend, swing pillows at your face and yell at you for sleeping the day away. You would laugh and hit her back. You were going to miss her terribly. The woman who had learned her name as Freya helps you slip yet another form-fitting gown on. It's white and shows off your bare shoulders, while the sleeves have slits and the rest of the gown flows freely down to your feet. Dragonion's attire consists usually of skin-revealing uniforms, since the kingdom was the warmest of them all, and you were grateful to be put in something a little more tasteful. Maybe tasteful wasn't the right word, seeing as you were far from a completely different world, and you haven't quite felt at home with their costumes yet, but you were content with being comfortable. Prince Juro stands before you or seated to his right. He offers you a kind smile and you bow respectfully at him. The long dining hall table is adorned with the finest morning foods your own kingdom had to offer. It was a kind gesture, but nothing you should get used to. The room is lit up only by a few torches, but the giant windows that showed off the rolling hills and tropical greenery brings more than enough light in. When you sit, Juro places a hand on your arm. His touch is warm and inviting. And remember the way he made you feel last night before you turn to him and he's watching you.
Prince Juro?
He frowns slightly at your formality.
About last night.
I put you to bed. He whispers back to you. He leans in close so that servants around you couldn't eavesdrop. No harm will come to you as long as you are in my temple, especially not from me. You are flooded with relief. It didn't feel like anything happened, but you had to make sure. The man before you was your husband, but you didn't know anything about him. Besides, what you heard from certain blue-haired somebody who is just gliding into the room. Speaking of which, he stands and everyone around him, besides Anya, freezes. Anya, he addresses her, and she salutes him by putting her fist to her chest. Hisses and growls escape her mouth, and you can only assume she's greeting him in Dranak. I'd like to have a word with you. I hope to have it in the tongue that all parties can understand. Back home, having a word meant taking someone aside and speaking to them one-on-one. You furrow your brow and watch Anya send you a glare before turning her attention back to the prince. It seems last night you did not fulfill your duties in tending to my bride. Anya crosses her arms across her chest and sneers.
She told me she could handle it on her own.
And was that before you or after you threatened her?
I did no such thing. I was only giving her a fair advice.
She shoots another glare your way. Was the advice wanted? He waits for her to respond, and it seems like she didn't understand the question. Ijuri began to speak to her in Draconic. His tone only is seeming more dangerous through the rolling of his tongue and his growls. She hisses back and throws a gesture into the air. She flinches only when he stomps his foot to the ground. The table shakes. I see then. Since you have such a narrow and tinted mindset, I can only see you as being a threat to this kingdom, and I have it in my right mind to punish you. A hush falls across the dining hall. You watch Anya face contour from fury to terror. The king himself walks into the room and crosses her arms, observing his son. Much like the prince, he displays his bare muscular torso, with only an open vest over his frame. He looks very much like Ijuru, but with long wavy black hair that falls beneath his shoulders, and many more scars, no doubt from fighting in many battles. He nods for the prince to continue. But I am putting your fate into my bride's hands. Your eyes widen. You're doing what? Ijuru turns to you. It's your decision, princess. We can have her banished for the crimes committing against you, or we can let her stay.
What?
You didn't realize your mouth fell open until Anya scoffs. Ijuru shoots her a look and she dismisses the ugly look on her face. You knew that one day you were going to have to make a big decision like this, at least for your kingdom. Hell, this didn't seem all that big compared to the declarations of war your father signed your kingdom into. You didn't think that Anya had gone as far as committing any crimes against you. You didn't like her the second she opened her mouth though. You remember you telling your father that when you were going to be a queen, you were going to be a kind and forgiving one. He said that's not what your kingdom needed. He ruled with an iron, and you were to follow in his footsteps. That was, of course, before losing so many good people, even your friends, in battle. You bow your head.
Let her stay.
Anya brings a shaking hand to her mouth and she cries out. You think she's upset, but then she salutes you. Ijuru doesn't change his tone as he speaks to her. Be grateful that your future queen is far more forgiving than I am. Let this be a warning. If you ever come near the princess again with malicious intent, I will not hesitate to have you take your leave by tying you into a barrel and have you float away to your exile. You shudder at his threat. That felt more like a promise, but Ijuru was a brute. Anya excused herself and you watched the king leave. Ijuru sits back down. The servants around you avoid talking and Ijuru starts tapping on the table. He lets out a shaky breath. Thank you, he says. You look to him and he's staring at his full plate. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted her banished, but I'm glad you said not to. You didn't know what to say. You began turning your glass full of what you think is pineapple juice, a fruit only found in this kingdom.
I believe empathy can go a long way. Carrying an open heart can only open the hearts of those who surround you.
That was something your mother used to say to you. You pick up your glass and take a sip.
Definitely pineapple juice.
You are thankful for such a delicacy. That's why you're going to be an incredible queen. He turns to you. But if Anya ever bothers you again, just call her a Nora-Rivas Morg. That was a mouthful. But if Anya ever bothers you again, just call her a Nora-Rivas Morg. Well, that was a mouthful.
What does that mean?
You take another sip of your juice. Ugly cow breed. You spit the pineapple juice back into the cup and cover your mouth. Ijuru screams, her eyes shine at you, happy to see you laugh. So, she has a sense of humor. He takes a napkin and dabs you at your face. That was too intimate for your liking. You take it from him and smile.
Of course I do. I just didn't expect you to have one.
He gives you a funny look and smiles to himself. There's a lot that we don't know about each other yet. I know a lot of dragonians seem barbaric at first, and as a future king, I have to play such a merciless role. I've met actually barbarians, they're not half bad, and as a king, I have to be assertive so my people will take me seriously. I've accepted the role, but there's more to me than my status. You've said that to your father plenty of times in one form or the other. It was almost reassuring, knowing that you and your husband had at least one thing in common.
Nar-Rivus-Mer.
You practice saying it. Draconic is mostly rolling your R's and elongating the S's, but when it comes to words like Merg, you had to sort of roll. Trust me, it's a big insult for dragons. Nar-Rivus Merg? He says the last word and his sharp teeth are flashed at you. It's kinda cute the way he growled the word out.
And what do I call you?
Mardi, which means husband.
And what do you call me?
Mademoiselle for wife and Vorel for beautiful. He grins as your cheeks are dusted with pink. But I prefer Ithquant because you could only be described as divine. You didn't think it was possible, but your face turned on even deeper shade of red. He takes the opportunity to lean in close to your ear and whisper, C'est vrai en quant mademoiselle. You nearly melt at the way his low voice rumbled in your ears. You turn to see him staring at your lips. My beautiful and divine wife. You find yourself leaning closer to him. His pupils dilate, only making his crimson eyes even more vibrant ruby. His lashes are dark and long, and nearly wren you as he blinks. Your lips are a hair away from his before the two of you are interrupted by a drunken growl coming from behind you. Ijiro sighs and turns towards the man who addressed him. They have a conversation you can't understand while you pick at your plate, wondering what the hell you were about to do. You were going to kiss your damn husband, which is fine. You're fine. Everything is fine. Ijiro clears his throat and takes your hand. There are some customary festivals are going on in town today. It's actually pretty common and you're not expected to go. He bites his lip and you fixate on his teeth. Why did you think they were so cute all of a sudden? Normally, I would encourage anyone to go to these things, but they can get pretty loud and well, last night... you were very hungover. You frown your brows.
How loud?
He brings his hand to his neck and gives you a sheepish grin. Let's just say our wedding was pretty hushed compared to this.
Oh.
You stare down at your half-eaten food. Is there a polite way to refuse? We don't have to go. I'd just like you to know what's going on in our kingdom. We can always go to the next festival. There's plenty.
Well, you should go.
You didn't want to keep him from having fun. Besides that, you really wanted to have some time to yourself to think. I don't want to leave you here by yourself. What kind of man if I left my lady here waiting and bored out of her wits?
I wouldn't be bored. I will go exploring. What kind of a queen would I be if I couldn't know my own castle?
You can tell he is being resistant, but you really need to be alone. You place your hand over his and he stares at it. This was the first time you had instigated a touch. You bat your lashes at him, only half guilty for using your charm to get what you want.
Please?
Maybe I'll have someone escort you around? You shake your head.
Though that wouldn't be necessary. Sometimes being alone and getting lost is the best way to find yourself, familiar with oneself and their surroundings. I'll do fine.
He frowns at the word alone. He leans back in his chair and his brows are narrow in concentration. His eyes light up and he grins. Yeah, okay, that will be good for you. You have half a mind to ask him what he means, but you don't want him to change his mind, so instead you kiss him on the cheek and watch his face flush. You don't see him change for the festival. You're only informed of when he was left, and you began your investigative stroll. From the outside, the temple stands high and proud but seems rather small compared to the inside. Your castle at home was large enough to house the royal family, your servants, 5 other noble families. Though the temple is larger than the viewer's eye, it only houses the royal family and a few of their servants. But the town isn't a long journey away. The temple is smaller because it wasn't meant to be housed at all when it was created. It was to be a house of worship for the Draconics. They have an ancient following that is derived from the first appearance of dragons, or so you ought to believe. You thought that was very interesting since your kingdom was basically built through power with a big help from magic. That's why the high priestess is hailed almost like royalty. Outside, your feet are greeted with a warm sand that surrounds the temple. It's not hot enough to burn you, and it's quite inviting. Draconics don't wear shoes, and you weren't offered anyone getting dressed, which was fine, but you were thankful for the lush grass you found after strolling outside, not wanting your feet to get too dusty. As you walk, you take in the air that is rich with the sweet aroma of the tropical fruit growing nearby, and the slight hint of a burning wood that dispels you wherever you go. It was an odd mix, but fitting for such an odd kingdom. You balance your feet and walk in a straight line, one foot in front of the other, and you think about your place in this kingdom. You are going to be the queen and Ijiro your king. You grew up knowing that you were going to be a queen somewhere, but it was finally happening all too fast. And in all the places far too foreign. But you did it for just a reason. You did it for the peace, and you are going to be a good queen, But how can you be so sure if you can't have your own husband touching you without panicking? You blame that on Anya, but you're not sure if things would be different if she hadn't sent it to you. You're lost in your head when the ground starts to shake. It happens so quickly that you're not sure if you imagine it or not. It shakes again and you lose your balance again. Your eyes showed up and you gasped. About 50 meters away, clear as the sky, a Herculean creature, mighty and proud with gorgeous Sagarnian scales, that shine as the warm sun hits them, stared at you. Your first encounter with a dragon.